winning isn't random. It is absolutely predictable, and it's based off of very specific things. You were born to win, you were meant to win. And this is where you begin to recognize the pattern and use it for your win. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. Over the course of the 59 years of my life, I've spent every day of it in the media, working with marketing, helping people out. And for the last 40 years, I've ran a marketing company that has worked with everything from brand new startups to, multi-billionaires, Fortune 500 companies, people who are, stay-at-home moms and everything in between. I have the gloriously wonderful privilege of getting to work with folks just like you to help them understand how marketing works, what it is, and just really share with them the truth of what they need to do in order to be visible and valuable and powerful and effective. And that is absolutely what I'm here to do today, because winning has a pattern. Success, as an old friend of mine used to say, success leaves clues. And if you know how and where to go and look and what those patterns and clues are, you absolutely know what it takes for you to win. And if you're not following those patterns, you don't understand or recognize them or how they work, it will absolutely cause you to not be seen, not be heard, not be visible, and not be valuable. So let's talk very specifically about the pattern, okay? And we can talk in extreme specifics. I was talking to a client of mine, actually, and they were talking about this really cool marketing program that they found. And without going into a lot of detail about it, because we're still investigating it, there's always possibilities. But as a rule of thumb, and I've been teaching this, especially in internet marketing, I started teaching this way back in 1995 or 96. If something sounds too good to be true, it is. I used to always say it probably is, but the truth of the matter is it just is, okay? If something seems possible, Lord of Criminals, glad to have you here with us. If something seems possible, then it possibly could be. If something seems doable, then, it's worth trying it out. Back in the day, and this is in the late 90s, I actually registered the domain name spamme.com. I probably should have kept it, but I got a lot of spam. And I used it specifically for a spam email address on purpose to get all of the marketing emails from as many lists as I possibly could without having my main email address just be bombarded with all the spam. And it worked really well because one of the very few upsides to massive spam is you can learn a lot. You can see from them the little hooks, the little tricks, the little things they do. I wish we would have had a really strong and powerful, as intuitive of AI systems back in 1996 or 97 as we have now. Because I would have liked to have taken several thousand of those emails and put them in and really seen what Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and a few others of those would have ran it through several different, probably Perplexity too, several different ones of them to see the pattern recognition that they see in it. You see successful ad campaigns, including spam, they have patterns, and that's why they work, okay? It has both to do with who you target, and unfortunately, there's a lot of spammers that target the most vulnerable of our population, people who are susceptible to being things, to buying into pie in the sky ideas that seem far too good to be true, but they leave just enough hope and just enough promise. Now, I'm not saying that that somehow makes them quote unquote good, but there is something we can learn from them. And as you begin to look at it, and I spent the last, I don't know, 1994 and it's 2026. So what is that? 30 years, give or take, in internet space, looking at the things that people do in digital marketing. Hey, Bruce, thank your dad for subscribing to me. I appreciate that. Thanks, Bruce. Glad to have you here with us. And over the course of that now, it's actually more than 30 years because it'd be like 32 years. I have noticed, seen, tracked, and used the patterns. And it's really not that mysterious. It's really not that big of a deal. There are people who succeed and people who fail. There are people who absolutely get it and they seem almost magical. And then there's people that it feels like no matter what they do, it isn't working. It isn't actually true, but it feels that way because they don't understand the pattern. It boils down to, and we talk all the time about the 3 C's: clarity, consistency, and connection. Okay? Clarity comes in because we absolutely need to know who are we speaking to, what did they need, and what of all the things we could tell them, what specifically do we need to say to reach that specific person? And it needs to be that specific. One of the other things that has become really true, and it's always actually been true, but for a while there were a lot of marketers that were teaching all these viral things. And there's a lot of people that are still using that with AI. Use this AI, and have all of your videos go massive viral. Well, just getting 1 million people to watch your video doesn't really do much for you. Hey, Paper Rocks, glad to have you. Yeah, now you can't finish a project without the internet. It's so important to really know and see and understand who you're speaking to, what they need, and how to say it clearly in the way that they can do it. Like I said, you get 1 million people that watch a video, but there's no call to action. There's no next step with you. You got a lot of watches. Maybe if you get up to, and let's be real, okay, anybody that's ever had a video go viral to in the million range, how, especially if it's only one video and it's not consistent, how small that check from YouTube actually is. Okay. And if it blows up in places like Facebook or Instagram, and there's some, again, very small money you can make from hitting those levels, but it's not going to be I can retire and just, live off of the royalties of my going viral. That's where the offer has to come in. Okay, so you do a massive viral, 1 million people watch it video, and it has a very strong go here to do specifically this. And it's very targeted and all 1 million of those people actually hit that target. None of those are real or true, but let's just say that you somehow cracked the code for that. Okay. What if 1 million people clicked on your link? Is the infrastructure for what you've done stable enough that you could have 1 million people click on that link? Does your merchant processor have it set up that if you go from where you're at right now to 1 million sales, that they're not going to deem your account to be fraudulent and close you down for anywhere from a couple of weeks to forever? It happens. If you're going to do a campaign like that, first place you better contact is your merchant processor, whether that's something as simple as PayPal or Stripe or Square or things like that. I am in Kansas. Glad to have you here with us. Because when you get a massive spike in sales like that, it triggers the automated fraud systems. even more so these days because AI is looking at that and they're doing predictive modeling behavior. Okay. So you need to have a plan for that. But then, okay, you get all of the systems and everything in place. Do you have the capability to bring on 1 million new customers? What would that really actually do to your company? And let's say it's something completely automated, so there's no work on your part. The whole system automatically sends them the deliverable. Okay, doable. Again, very possible. But do you have the system in place that can do that? Do you have the systems in place for the invariably number of people that are going to ask for refunds? Do you have the systems in place for the customer service calls? For all of those kind of things that are going to happen when you do that. What's really better and what some knowledgeable people, I mean, I've been teaching it for years, but some other people are catching up with me, is what you really want. And I'm not even going to take credit for it. I'll quote Seth Godin, who, was a guru back before I even was on the internet. Well, at the beginning of the same time I was on the internet, because there wasn't an internet before I was on the internet. Yahoo came out with a website and Seth Godin got hired as their marketing director, whereas nobody knew who I was back then. Okay, I'm just saying levels. All right. But as Seth says, better to have 100 people who are raving fans than 10,000 people who could care less. What you really need is the ability to create a conversation with one person today and then another person tomorrow, until you get to a place where you have, 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 or 100, but I mean, 100 is a big, big number on that end. Okay. You want to have that system in place. And then, okay, and here's where virality really gets in the way. It's not consistent. Okay. There are some things that you can do that are predictable that will make you get more views. But ultimately, the thing that's really going to work the most is consistency. And you'll have some, and I know I have friends that have, a few of their posts that have gone to like 30, 40, 50 million views. Okay. But I've also seen their account where the one right after that or two after that will be, in the thousands. I'm not even talking like 10,000. I'm talking like, 1 or 3,000, when the one before it did 30 million. Not predictable, but consistently by posting all of that stuff that does glean a lot of interest. And in this particular case, the person I'm thinking of, all of those posts that they're doing is informational. It's done to expose who they are to the world. And yeah, they make a little bit of money from YouTube, not enough to, call it a business even, but, a little bit of money to not quite even cover the staff that helps post all the stuff. Well, not at all actually cover the staff. But anyway, it probably pays for the AI systems that help generate the thing. It's about how much it makes a month. Consistently posting, though, that's where the system begins to see and know who you are and see that, hey, if 30 million people or 25, either way, because if you were at 2 and you now go to 25, that is a marker for whatever social media you're on, that what you're saying is beginning to resonate more than what it did. And when you consistently then hit 25 and then it jumps up to, 70, again, these are small incremental growth that is the real win, because those are people that are really truly engaging with you. Naruto, glad to have you here with us. Consistent. And then that's where connection comes in. Okay. So we talked about clearly knowing who you are and consistently doing it, but you got to have that connection element. You've got to follow the concept that goes very simply. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust. The people that are mission driven, mission led, and I keep using those phrases and mostly because AI keeps suggesting them and I keep talking against them. And then I'll see in my description, like I did today, that it's in there again. But I like the word in my bullet points from today more, and that's real. When you show up and you're just really real. I love it when people come on and in the comments they're like, this is an AI. I love to look at them and read and say, hey, so and so. No, sorry, I'm not an AI. I'm just a real human being here in front of the camera talking to you. It's not about being flashy. It's not about all of the super whiz bang flashy hacks that you can do. It's not about all of the overpromise and underdeliver people that are offering anywhere from 5 cents to $5 million, things that sound like they're going to work. It's about people who can show you results and tell you specifically how and why it's going to work and why it's going to do that. If they promise you something, they should be able to show it to you. Before you do a campaign, let's just use a perfect example, because people are always, that are book authors, they're always saying, what does it take to be on the New York Times bestseller list? About $500,000. I mean, I've just gotten to the point where I just flat out tell them. And when you spend the $500,000, it's not guaranteed, because the New York Times is an editorial. Okay. And so they make the changes, they make the list based on their opinion of the statistics that they get. It's not statistically based. When you go to Amazon's bestseller list, it's statistically based. It's based hour to hour. So it's saying this book sold more books than that book did in this hour. And that's why there's more fluctuation to it. And that's why if you don't have a consistent marketing plan on Amazon, your numbers will go way up and then they'll crash. You've got to have that consistency. When you're consistently available and valuable and real, not chasing some kind of, how can I hack the system? How can I do the thing to make it something amazingly whiz-bangy cool? But how can I just simply show up and add value? Those are the people. That's the pattern. Show up clearly to specifically who, consistently, with the desire to want to connect and make an impact in their life. And then know the people well enough that you can connect absolutely with them. That's exactly the pattern. And when you use it, you will win. And when you're not using it fully, completely, consistently, that's when it's going to feel like you're losing. You're still in the same pattern. It's just a matter of, are you making the pattern work for you or not? You're not the exception. I'm sorry. You're in the same pattern all of us are. But you can be the winner. You can drop the word amplify, review, and we can show you anywhere from $100 a month all the way up to, New York Times bestseller, $500,000, how you can reach whatever level you can afford to reach and you have the time and the money to reach. We've got programs at every level, from $100 to $100 million. And we're ready to help you out. DM, comment, amplify, review, and let us help you out. Let us be here for you so that you can be not just the winner, but so that you can use the pattern that you now see and recognize and understand to your benefit. I'm so grateful to have you here with us. We'll be back again tomorrow. And I'm going to actually just show you, it's time we look at some of the people again and see in real life how consistently showing up. Hey, Bruce, glad to have you here. Good to see you. How consistently show up is going to, it isn't even is going to, but is in the real world helping people out and affecting their lives and their reviews and their business and their rankings and all those kind of things. I hope you will join us. Until then, I know it's cold outside in many, many places. It is here. You can see I'm in my hoodie. And what you can't feel is how high up I have the heater turned on in this room, too. But I do hope that you're happy, you're safe, and that one way or another, you can be warm and feel deeply loved. And until we're together again next time, I hope you have a great week.